All right, everyone. This is the section of Serena that goes into plant medicine, ancestral indigenous wisdom. And I'm with my sister Olivia, who is a dietera. And I would love for you to introduce yourself more and share what you do. But I'm so excited to have this conversation about plant dieta.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Olivia, and I am an artist, healing arts practitioner based in California. And I have an herbal and skincare range, holistic skincare range called Earth Archive. And I've been doing dieta in the Shipibo-Konibo tradition for a number of years and just feel so honored to be here and to be bridging these traditions with your community right now, Daniela.
Yeah, so grateful our connection to Peru and just being able to share what we've learned and the authenticity of the Shipibo-Konibo tradition. And I would love for you to start with, what is Dieta, sharing with the women that are watching that maybe have heard about it, maybe have seen it somewhere, but don't really know what it is.
Mhm. Yeah, so dieta, it's kind of this all-encompassing word, and there are different lineages and traditions that engage in dieta. So I wanted to preface with that, and specifically, I know our connection is in the Shipibo-Konibo tradition, and what that looks like is being in a period of fasting and isolation, usually with one plant, and that is with the intention of healing and learning from that plant, forming an intentional relationship with the spirit of that plant for the purpose of healing and learning. And so there's various nuances and specificities when it comes to dieting with different plants. And one of the things that I think is really beautiful is even within the Shipibo-Konibo tradition, different families have different ways of doing dieta. So
Mm,
what that can look like is almost like what plants they will start you with, or accompanying remedies to work with your master plant that you're dieting, and what other plants can be supportive, whether those are physical remedies or different plant baths, vapors, steams, treatments such as that. And I think the other thing that's really beautiful about the process of dieta is it's an oral and experiential tradition,
mhm.
which is just such a profound and in our Western world almost forgotten way of learning. So it's not necessarily something that you can just kind of like plug into, take a quick training or a course online or read materials, but instead it's almost this like constantly unfolding lifelong path.
Mm.
Um, you have these seeds planted, say, of the plant you're dieting that continue to grow with you along the course of your lifetime.
Yeah, and I feel it's so potent to dieta in the traditions, in the places, in the jungle where it comes from. Like I feel it's for me, I feel it's just so different. I couldn't imagine not doing a dieta outside of these traditions in the jungle. And yeah, I would love to hear about the way you diet and how you're the center and the Shipibo healers that you work with, how they work and what plants they work with. And there's so much to go into, but we can start there.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, so one other thing that I think is really interesting within this is some context on the Shipibo as well. Like their tradition is such a tradition of doctoring. And so traditionally, like when these practices of dieta were being, they say it's hundreds of thousands of years old, the process of dieta. Who knows how long it really is, but it's like a time old tradition that some of the lore and cosmology goes into. And that specifically was for treating whether it was like particular ailments or for the path of becoming a healer. And along that path, there are different initiations that could come onto depending on the intention behind someone doing dieta or sama in the Shipibo language. So things now have morphed and they look a little bit different because with the rise of popularity of, I mean, the fact that we're even having this conversation on dieta and of plant
Crazy.
and truly, truly. And
Yeah.
yeah, with the rise of the population of or the popularity of medicine work in the West now, things are kind of they're like looking a little bit different. They're looking different. The way that Ceremony looks is very, very different. The way that dieta looks is very different, but sticking as close to the tradition as possible is really, really beneficial. So I know you brought up doing dieta in the jungle and what that looks like. One of the key factors of that being isolation
Mhm.
and the container of isolation, which looks like not just the physical isolation from the outside world, but isolation, in terms of technology or not having communication with anyone, not having conversations with other people who are there, and really just remaining so close into your own energy and the energy of your plant to be able to tap into the subtle nuances of a plant energy because it's quiet. It's very, very quiet. And bridging that intentional connection happens in those quiet moments. So one of the things that I found, like as a little anecdote on that, is I would notice like hearing a story from somebody else who is, say, present, or having a conversation with somebody, and then later that day an element of their story or of our interaction would show up in my dream space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that, oh, that's the energies kind of crossing over from that person into my space. And the dream spaces, as I'm sure you've experienced as well, is truly the crux of where these teachings and learnings and wisdom from the plant comes into
Plants
and what was
dreams.
that?
The plants come
Yeah,
through dreams and through song, some of them. Yeah, you're right.
absolutely. Yeah, dreams and song, and the ceremonial work is a little bit more popular now. So coupling the, in ceremony with uni or ayahuasca alongside your plant dieta. Traditionally, like it would kind of depend on the reason that you're dieting, the specific plant that you're dieting in terms of what that would look like.
Mhm.
But the work with uni, which is the Shipibo name for ayahuasca, in my experience, it's almost more like a conduit for opening that world of the plant. And these various plants and trees have entire worlds of their own that can open in a really beautiful way. And those worlds also subsequently will open in your dream spaces, and being able to experience those various energies of the plants in that way. So that is, yeah, that's the way that I've personally done diet, that my teachers of the Mawa lineage do diet. And with that comes then the fasting as well, which can look like abstinence from food, water. It kind of can be tailored and doctored to what a plant is asking of you, or what you're really feeling your body called towards. But the baseline of that is no salt, oil, sugars or fruits, meat. You're eating a very, very bland diet of usually like a plantain and a fish and maybe some rice here and there, or something like that. Yeah, abstinence and fasting from media, so not reading, not obviously sex, interaction, physical contact with anybody, interaction with the outside world. And I think one of the things that, tapping back into what you mentioned on song, is you're really in, like, it puts you into an energy of creation.
Mhm.
And rather than like the consumption, you're able to kind of be fed from the plant, and then from that bring through the lessons and the teachings and healings through your creation, which usually is
Yeah. Yes,
through.
like we're offering our body to this plant spirit by like stripping away all of these comforts that we've yeah, trained to just be attached to in society, and then allowing the plant to enter our vessel in a very sacred way, and then communing and creating with that plant. And
Absolutely.
before we get into all of the plant spirits and their energies, which I am so excited to talk about, also want to honor the cleansing and the purging like that happens before you start your dieta, because I know your center works with is it Payanti? Is that the cleansing?
Yeah, yeah. So payanti is a Shipibo word that means, the literal translation is like to fan off, kind
Oh,
of like general word for cleaning.
yeah.
So it's like you want to come in as clean as possible.
Mhm.
You know, and
Definitely.
and I think in the West we have these connotations like clean, means the opposite of that, dirty. And it's not that you necessarily come in dirty. And I think it's something that I've noticed folks have like a bit of an aversion to, just in general with Shipibo ceremonies, because there is such an emphasis on the cleansing and on the cleaning and the purging in a way. But it's more like you said, like that purification of the vessel to be able to receive more. And one other note that's just a perspective on that I've really loved is almost like what the cleaning is like moving aside the energies that you've come into contact with that obstruct like the true essence of who you are to fully emerge. So
Mhm.
it's not that you have, these things that need to be cleansed, whether that's a trauma or an interaction or an emotion. And it's not that it's like, this is something that's wrong from you and therefore we need to rid of it. It's like, this is something that happened that we can move these obstacles out of the way to clear your path to
Yeah.
emerge more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Where the teachers, oh, sorry about that.
No,
What were
I
you
was
gonna say?
gonna say it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah. The teachers who I work with, they like to have your vessel be kind of as cleansed as possible before entering that space. So
Mhm.
what that looks like is usually just a few cleansing ceremonies prior to opening up your diet.
Mhm.
And the benefit of that really is that you can drop more deeply into that dieta space
Mm.
and not have to, go through as like that release process of just even the travel, the airport, the being
Yeah.
on your like all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that can hinder your connection with the plant in a way. And they also work with plant baths, which looks like a combination of different plants poured over the body, perfumes, and vomitivo also, which usually is with Pinon Colorado or lemongrass. You like drink it and you drink a ton of water. And that really is like a beautiful physical purgative to cleanse any, especially like
I love
food.
Pino Colorado so much.
It tastes so delicious, strangely. It's such a beautiful plant, such a beautiful
Yeah,
plant.
it's amazing how the plants work. And this, as we said, we're reiterating like the Shipibo are doctors and they're not Western doctors, so they're gonna prescribe what they see in your soul and your alma and your what you're holding, and like they can literally see what's going on in your body, and it's not gonna look the same for every person. Like you might come and be like, "Oh, I want to do work with Bobinsana," and then they'll be like, no, you need to work with this other plant. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and that keen sight of really what that order of operations can be for somebody of, okay, you're wanting to say work with this plant or you're wanting to address this. And then it's like, okay, well, here are the steps between here and there.
yeah, the steps.
Here are the steps. And that's something else, I think culturally, it's like we want to go from like here and jump up to the most like advanced, expansive experience, which really so much can be gained from like
Yeah,
taking a slow path and so much wisdom and like truly integrated understanding of the medicine work can be found. And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed that I really appreciate like about working within a lineage and within, like it's almost you have this beautiful framework of here is the way to do things because it's an ancient tradition and it's like it's time tested at the end of the day. Like we know it works because it's worked for thousands of years and
yeah.
it's worked in this way that has just it's shown to be beneficial. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, it can really offer this beautiful blueprint. And one other thing I would like to note, when you said kind of this tradition of doctoring, um, that's also something that is so important when looking at like a maestro who you want to work with, a healer that you want to work with. And, in ceremony, there's kind of this discussion of like calling upon the doctors. And it's like, who are those doctors? Those are the plant spirits. Those are the plants that the healer that you're working with has dieted. And so it's like, those are the actual energies who are
Oh,
there present in ceremony in their spirit form. And it's almost like these different trees or plants, they have like specialties in a way. They have, leading into that conversation of like the energetics of these different plants. Um, there are certain plants that have like hold different medicinal qualities or different imprints that can work really, really well with the person who's dieting them, and who you are working with will bring those energies into the space and be able to then utilize them to see what is happening in somebody's body, both like physically, energetically, spiritually, emotionally, in all of the ways, and this understanding that that's all connected. And
Mhm.
that is like where healing and growth and development can take place.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
I love that. Yes, I love that intention of remembering that these are the plants that are the doctors, and the maestros, maestras are the ones that have worked with these plants in Dieta and like kind of mastered with them almost because it's years and years and years and lifetimes. And
absolutely.
the plants are coming through them. And by you communing with the plant you're dieting with, the maestro maestra is activating that plant within you. It's they're activating their diets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so I love this conversation. I love plants so much.
Me too. I mean, it's that's the other thing that I think is so beautiful about um, and we were kind of speaking a little bit about like dieting within lineage is you're not just like forming that connection between you and the plant. Like you are learning directly from that plant in the sama container, in the dieta container, but at the same time you're having like baked into your diet the tradition of who you're working with, of their family, of all of the lineage and stories that they have gained for generations for working with those plants. So oftentimes specific families will have certain plants that they specialize in working with. And those are like, whether it is Ayahuma or Noira or Toei or, Shiwawaku, or these like big trees and strong energy plants, especially, that certain families will be like, this is a family who works with this tree. And in dieting those plants with that family, you're really plugging into the wisdom that has carried on through generations and having that pass through your diet. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's a living transmission. Like you have to be there in the physical to receive that. Like, wow. And
Yeah.
so you brought up Toei. I actually, do you know anything about Toei?
I
Or
know I don't have personal experience.
yeah.
It's not a plant that I've dieted with. It's not a plant that the family that I diet with works with. Um, but yeah, I know like a little bit about the plant. I know it's a very, very strong plant to diet. Absolutely. And it's like a more nuanced energy in some
Mhm.
ways. Like it's
Amazing.
really a plant that's like highly, highly advanced alongside, many of these trees that have kind of various sides and different ways that the plants test you to really
Mhm.
uh, see how you want to work with them, to see if you're ready to work with them. And I find that so many of these larger plant energies and larger trees in particular will put the person who's dieting them through more of these tests. And these are
Yeah.
plants that also take years and years to form like true relationships with, rather than being like a starter plant
Yeah.
necessarily. But, like, learn how to bridge a relationship with the plant, how to like nurture your diets. It's like, okay, these are, they say you can diet these plants a lifelong and continue to learn from them, continue to learn from them.
Yeah.
I know
Like,
they're growing everywhere.
I know I'm so fascinated by her blossom. I honestly just yeah, just being near the tree, it always brings up so much. I'm like, whoa, probably I will not ever diet her. I have
Yeah,
so much reverence.
for sure. Yeah, I have a similar experience, and I know it's a plant that's also used in different remedies for protection, like whether that is doing like certain vapors or things like that for remedies. These are also, just to know, to be done under the guidance of
Yes, we're
somebody.
not
Like,
recommending this
like
at all.
these are
Yeah.
pres- these are prescriptive treatments that someone who works with these plants would, assign to somebody. Um, but yeah, I think protection is like one of the biggest pieces that I've heard. That, and like the vision, like the psychic vision and vision in ceremony is like some of the big gifts of that plant that I've heard, not experienced.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she's really present around all the trees. Of course, she wanted to come through. But let's speak about some of the plants that, yeah, the center that you work at offers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I before we started this conversation, we were speaking of Bobansana, and I know that that is like a tree and a flower and a plant that is so in the energy of this time. It feels like the medicine is really wanting to shine through for so many reasons. And I think one of the biggest things with Bobansana, like in my experience, is its connection to the water worlds.
Mm.
And it opens up like these really beautiful, whether it's in dreams or in ceremonies and in like the physicality of your body, like these water worlds. And what that looks like for me is really like its ability to work on grief, shock, the emotional body. And one of the ways that I find it does that is, like the first time that I dieted with Bobansana, everything that I kept hearing was like, so cute, so beautiful, so sexy, Bobansana. Like it's gonna be and I
Sirenita.
remember totally. And I remember I was with my partner at the time, and we both opened our diet and like looked at each other and we were like, is everyone talking about? Because it brought so much of that subconscious material of the waters of the body to the surface. And when that comes to the surface, it's now like, okay, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with this like deep emotional material, that kind of subterranean, you know, essence that is being stirred up? So it can be a very emotional diet for many people, but I find it's really such a beautiful, energetic ally. Um, Once you understand like the way that it's working, because it's not necessarily like the most direct plant in many ways. And it's also one that I find like continues to unfold and continues to unfold and kind of take you to these deeper levels of
Mm.
relationship with that tree, and that beauty, like the physical tree, I mean, is like stunning in its beauty. And its beauty is one that it's like, for me it's almost like you see the beauty through these experiences, like say through the experience of grief and
Mhm.
like healing grief, you learn the appreciation of what was had, what was lost, of the flip side of that coin. And it's this beautiful, like integrated human experience and plant experience in a way. The experience of consciousness and of being alive, of like being able to feel that full spectrum and hold that within the body. So that's one of the things with Bobansana for me that I think has been some of the biggest medicine and understanding and appreciating and learning to, yeah, to hold deep emotional experience.
Mm. Yes, I haven't dieted with Sana, but I feel her really present as an ally for this project, Serena, and definitely she like the way she's coming in different forms is teaching me like, yeah, the initiations and going to the depths. And I almost what I'm realizing right now is because all of the sweetness and like the high pitched, like very magical frequency in the sound, it's almost like she's saying to get to these high states, you have to go down like to the depths. And that's the balance. You can't just receive her sweetness and these magical dreams and like these beautiful songs and encantos that come through her without actually meeting her and like going into the waters. So.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And yeah, the dream space also, it's such a dream space activator in many ways. And I find that's one of my favorite ways outside of the container of Dieta. Like there are certain plants that you
Mhm.
wouldn't want to work out outside of that container. And there are certain plants that like in, smaller homeopathic remedies can be beneficial. And Omansana is one that I personally like to work with, like at certain times outside of Dieta. And that is through the dreams. And that is through like a very small kind of homeopathic dose of like a tincture or a tea
Yeah, the
the
tincture, yeah.
evening before bed, like for a container of time. So not necessarily, like there are certain nutritive herbs that you're going to be
Hmm.
taking all day. I'm like, it's not necessarily that, but it's like, okay, I'm experiencing like there's something that wants to be worked with here emotionally, or there's like a heartbreak or a loss,
Yeah.
some trauma or something like that, even minor that's occurred, and working with it in the dream space for say like 3 days to a week or something can really help to bring that prayer to the surface and bring my questions to the altar in a way, and yeah, seek connection with her in that regard.
Oh, so beautiful. Popensana.
So sweet.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm curious what are the other plants that yeah are coming through that you want to share about? I feel like the next plants that are coming are plants that probably want to just be worked in with Dieta. They feel a little bit more serious. They're like
Yeah, yeah. The other two prominent energies of plants that I've really deeply experienced, one of which is Mokopari or Chiricsanango. And it's, it's like I have no words for the first time that I dieted this plant. And it's definitely one that is like in the Dieta container with a practitioner and healer who like really deeply understands that plant. It works on the central nervous system. So in consumption, you can get kind of like shakes, chills, tingles to varying degrees depending on how much you're taking. It can also induce visionary states, really, really open the dreams. And it cleanses the lymph, the blood, can help with arthritis and bones. They say it's like really a bone doctor. And I understand that on both the physical and as well as the energetic, like getting into the bones, into the marrow, into the DNA, and into these deep imprints of the body in a way that is just like unparalleled in a way. And even with, say, the energy shaking or the like physical uh, sensations in that way, for myself, it was almost like it is shaking up that material in the body.
and to
And
release it. Hmm.
sure, for sure. And like in working on the nervous system as well, there's this like counterbalance of extreme nervous system like overstimulation is the way that I experienced it, like through that flood of the body, through the stimulation in the dream space or the strength of that plant in ceremony, while coexisting with almost this like warm honey feeling and like tendering, like it was like a very like tender like parent holding a child type of energy of safety and of protection. And seeing the system in this way of like how can we bring in vitality and life force so that we can expand those bounds to hold more, to be able to exist in that state of tenderness more often, was one of the ways that I really, yeah, experienced Mocha Party. And there's a, in contrast to Bobansana, maybe if we're gonna like give a little comparison, there's not really much comparison to be made, but um while Bobansana can kind of take you into those like more watery underworlds, Mocha Party had a very like aligning, energetic self, like a bit more of I guess you could say like a masculine energy. Some lineages, some families say that it's the masculine counterbalance to ayahuasca, that kind of the other strong doctor of the jungle that crosses through not just the Shipibo but other medicine traditions as well, that is worked with in many different Amazonian lineages and cultures. And yeah, it's a really, really beautiful, protective, fortifying medicine that is also like, yeah, you need a bit of time with it because it works on the body in that physical way as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
interesting. Yeah, all these plants are so medicinal and we can't even comprehend like the way that they work on the body. And I love that you were sharing that about chirik. And I was wondering how do they prepare chirik sanango? Because I know the plant has a really beautiful purple flower, right?
Yeah, yeah, it has these beautiful purple flowers, and I've seen them kind of like small shrub. It's like a shrub
Mm.
tree. also seen them grow very, very tall. They grow all over. I'm in Hawaii right now, and they're all over the island, and they're used as like
That's
an
so
ornament.
cute. Oh, Chirik is with you.
I've heard from friends that, in Costa Rica, they grow they're used like for landscaping, and they're just very, very beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But the preparation is of the roots.
Mhm.
So root material, like the inner root material that is shaved and usually done in like a cold infusion. And then you drink that infusion of the root medicine.
So
Yeah,
potent. Yeah, roots are really potent medicines, especially in, Western herbalism. Like to work with a root is like, yeah, I feel roots like go really deep and
definitely. Yeah. And I mean, in that way, also, it's like what you're working with from the plant. It's like in those like roots of the body at the same time, like literally your nervous system, your imprint, your ancestry, the roots of your lineage that you're carrying. It has the ability to work on that as well.
wow. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And the other um the other tree that I want to talk about or that we, spoke about before was Noirau.
mhm.
And Noirau, there's so much to say. And it's definitely like a larger tree, bigger energy, more advanced dieta. Um, it's one that is specific to certain families. So not every family will be working with Noirau. There's also so much like beautiful lore and cosmology surrounding this tree that yeah, just the stories themselves I think are so rich and potent in their metaphor in the Shipibo tradition. But one of the things with Noirau, so Noya is flying. So it's flying medicine is essentially what the translation is. And there are stories of the trees, kind of uprooting and flying, carrying villages. And that is like, in very, very short, the origin story of that medicine. And it's a tree that is kind of a foundational learning diet for the Mawa lineage. Um, like their families too are Ayahuma and Noirau. And yeah, it is more of like if you're on that path of like wanting to become a healer, it can be really beneficial in that. And my personal experience of Noirau is like a teacher of the medicine and a teacher of the plants and a teacher of like the inner workings of the technology and lineage. And so it's a very strong lineage medicine, like for learning about Shipibo culture and learning about the technology of the medicine and of the Ikaros and of what is really happening in that world and in that space. Um, the energetics that is spoken of is that it's like an energy of like unconditional love or of the tree of light or the world tree or that concept that exists in so many different cultures that it's that kind of enlightened medicine. And I think one of the things that I found with folks who gravitate towards Know You're Out is there is that like unconditional love. I'm there for it, like light, let's do it. And
Oh.
but kind of like I said with Sana, it's like things are not as they seem all the time. Where it's in order to have that illumination, it's like you turn on a flashlight to shine onto those dark corners. It's like someone, you're finally someone flipped all the lights on, and you're like, are the things that need to come into alignment in order to truly walk that path of medicine in whatever way that looks for somebody. And it's not to say, like when I say the path to become a healer, that is within like that tradition. It's not to say like you diet Noir out if you want to pour medicine and serve medicine in this way, but in whatever way that you and your life path wants to transmit your medicine and the medicine of the plants in your own life, whether that is as an artist or a musician or, body worker, whatever that is, mother, sister, friend. So yeah, that's my little like cosmic joke pretext for is it can really shake up a lot in somebody's life. And there's so much there, and there's so much beautiful mystery as well in terms of just it being kind of one of those larger lifelong paths of
Mhm.
unfolding and forming relationship. um I think that's one of the things that I've really gained from that is like the true understanding of what it means to be in relationship,
Mhm.
not just with the plants but with other human beings.
Mhm.
And a lot of those lessons that I've learned personally in relationship with that tree have been um, then tested in my relationship with human beings, whether those are with partners or with family members or whoever else. It's like, okay, you got that training. Let's see it in action now. Let's see people to really integrate, the learnings from that dieta space and walk forward in life
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
that change.
it's endless. You can go so deep with one plant. I always
Absolutely.
say to work with like closely with a few plants instead of working with hundreds because the plants can just take you deeper and deeper and deeper and just start continue to unveil the mystery and you're creating this relationship and the plant starts to trust you and starts to see like, okay, she's showing up again to diet with me again. Gonna give her more. I'm gonna like gift her this song and it's just so beautiful. Uh,
Yeah.
would you say that the plants choose you or choose us? Or do you feel it's like it's a, yeah, symbiotic relationship where we also choose them?
I think it's a conversation. I think it's a conversation. I think it's like it's a little bit of like a courtship in a
Yeah.
way.
Love how it's
Like
this direction. Yeah,
it's like
definitely.
you get that hint from the plant, and then it's also when you brought up Toei, it's like
Mhm.
you feel that pull, but then you're like, oh, is this a relationship that I want to engage in, and how? Like maybe this is, but in this context, not every plant is meant to be dieted with, for instance. Like not every plant is meant to be drank every day as an infusion, and just really learning to, like you said, like having a small selection when you're really learning to work with plants in this way and navigating those relationships in the same way that you navigate friendships and familial relationships. And there are certain people you tell everything to, and they are your confidant, they're your safe person. There are other folks who you love, but they're more of an acquaintance. They're not the one who you're gonna, call on when you need advice or in the case of an emergency or something like that. And there are also people you want to stay away from. Like your poisonous plants or, but like the
Yeah,
poison, there's poison
there's
too. There's
medicine. Yeah.
those interactions and from those relationships, and that'll vary from person to person. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how I see it is that the plants will maybe like wink at us and then we can wink back or vice versa, or we can wink at them and they can be like, do I like you? Do I want to work with you? There's like mutual choosing that happens.
Mhm.
I
Yes,
love that. Thank you.
courtship, yes. And sometimes the plants come for moments or transitions. I find Toei, yeah, comes as a form of protection for me. And when I'm in a transition or moving, yeah, from a state of being to a new embodiment. And it makes sense why she came through in this conversation. And Bobin Sana is really present with me too. And I
Yeah.
think my Bobin Sana Mapacho. Do you want to speak on Mapacho?
Yes, yes, yeah. And one quick note before Mapacho on that note as well. That's something that I think I feel so in tuned with even just as like an herbalist of,
Mhm.
like there are seasons where I'm like, I need to be drinking nettles every single day. And then seasons where I'm like, it's a little too drying for my constitution right now. And I'm really needing something like marshmallow root or rose or tulsi or, like seeing what those transitions are and how these plants can support us in various seasons of our lives and when we feel called to come back to them. And yeah, not just a conversation between you and the plants, but also a conversation of like with one's own intuition and that heightening of an intuition and listening to what the body needs too.
Mm.
Yeah. And Mapacho or tobacco is, felt really vital to this conversation for me. And it's another plant that I really see as being like a bridge and like a conduit. And there are you can diet with tobacco and with Mapacho, obviously, and that's something that I know looks very different from family to family, in terms of what that looks like and different cultures and different lineages in the Amazon. And for myself, there's like such a stabilizing energy in tobacco, and it just has this way of like aligning like aligning your energy, aligning your thoughts, aligning the energy of your diet, like the ability to, like I said, act as that bridge and like connect you to your diet through way and through way of whether it's like, yeah, the mapacho you're smoking the prayer that you put into your mapacho, the tool of the pipe, which is like a whole other conversation. But there's so much there, and yeah, it really has this beautiful quality of like connection is what I see in the tobacco and in the mapacho, as well as its cleansing elements, its literal purgative elements. That's another one that, as we're talking about like the toxic or poisonous plants, that's like too much mapacho can kill you, can induce vomiting, can induce these deep cleanses of the body. Um, Whereas like in smaller doses, it can be very homeopathic, but it has that energetic cleansing and protective element to it as well.
Yes, and the thing is about Mapacho and sacred tobacco is you don't inhale it. You're like blowing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And my
Yeah.
maestros talk about Mapacho being like this is food for your plants, for your dieta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it feeds the diet. It feeds
Mhm.
your, yeah. And you're also, I mean, working with the breath in that way of, like you're doing, like where you're directing the breath, where you're literally blowing off energies or blowing on energies, and the power of that connection, both like from the internal of your body to the external with the tobacco as a bridge and as a connector. Yeah.
Yeah, tobacco is so powerful. I mean, in our society, we see tobacco being misused and abused, and yeah, this conversation is really to return to that knowledge and share the sacredness of the plant. So I'm so grateful for you and this conversation.
Of
Yeah.
course, of course.
Mm.
And what else was there? Oh, one other note that I know you and I mentioned was preparation, and like
Mhm.
what brings somebody to the space of and like why would you want to do a diet, or like how do you know if you want to do a diet? And I think that there's so much to say here in terms of like it's not for everybody. And one of the biggest things is really like commitment and having that clarity within yourself of whether you're able to adhere to those commitments, the commitments of the plants, the commitments of like the infrastructure of the diets, the commitments that your teachers set. And so even with, kind of going through some of the plants, a lot of those like plants with larger energies will carry with them specific contracts and commitments, some of which can be lifelong. Like a very common one is like pork, not having pork for ever. So there are things like that, or like there's different ones for different plants, but really like it's a element of respect to come to something and to know like I am truly ready to make this commitment, and that will be for the betterment of your health at the end of the day, and for the betterment of the health of the family that you're working with, and out of respect and reverence for this tradition and for the family and for the plants. And there's nothing wrong with moving at a slower pace and like learning how to connect with plants before moving into doing dieta, I think is one of the things that I observe with, like this practice coming a little bit more into the cultural zeitgeist and into the cultural awareness is yeah, the disclaimer that it's not like a experience to be had, but more of the path to be walked. And it's not like, okay, you did this one time and like checked it off the list. And some people might diet one time, but at the end of the day, that diet will remain with you forever. And the attention that you give it will allow its medicine to grow within you and allow it to flourish in your life. And if it's neglected, then it, it maybe will fade into the background, or maybe you can
True.
have effects on you. But yeah, I think that is one of the important notes. But at the end of the day, it is also really just like following your heart. And if you're feeling called to the path, if you're feeling called to a particular plant, like that is something to listen to. And then also to key into the discernment of like, what is it that you're bringing to it? Like, what is the intention that you're really bringing to your diet, and why are you doing it? What is it that you're wanting to work with here? What is it that is wanting to that the plants are wanting to help you with? Like, if there's something that is really that you're working through, like they can be such profound healing tools. And for, whether that is emotionally or whether that is physical ailments, like there's so much that can be brought out from like coming to the container of Dieta with very, very specific intention.
Yes, and the last thing I actually want to note before we close is the aftercare and the integration and to not cross the diet. And I'm not really sure how to explain that, but I just want to emphasize the importance of following the protocol, also following your heart, but like yeah, just important, yeah, to understand the medicine and respect the traditions and not just throw it away. And what could happen if you don't respect it and follow the protocol after going through such a deep experience like this, that's sometimes 2 to 3 weeks to month to 3 months, and you can't just go back to reality the way it was. So I just want to, yeah, share some aftercare.
I think something with that, and that, this this maybe was like one of the opening points that should have been made, but like in the process of dieting with plants, you're attuning your body to become more sensitive. And that's part of the reason that you strip away so much, is like you do become more sensitive. You do become more sensitive to the environments around you, the interactions that you have, the foods that you eat, like certain things that worked for you at some point in time or worked for one at some point in time could not work anymore. And so that's kind of, I think, a little bit of like the aftercare is really recognizing like, all right, what were the messages that I received here, and what were the things in my life that I was seeing like maybe needed to fall away in order to hold this greater capacity and the sensitivity, like I think a big one for myself, just as an example, is like the kind of content that I engage with has really shifted from before I started working with the plants to afterwards. And even just the consumption element of like, who am I following on Instagram? What kind of films am I watching? As someone who also I was like a lifelong artist, it's like I consumed a lot of media and just exposing myself to different things. And I'm like, okay, I can't watch crazy gory films all the time anymore, or things that are really frightening, or like there's an element of that energy that I just feel more affected by personally. Might not ring true for everyone, I know it doesn't, but well, it does. You become sensitive to different things, or different kinds of relationships, different friendships, alcohol,
Ice cream, even. I feel like I can't really eat ice cream anymore.
but
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, being in like big, like really crowded, like environments is one for me. It's just like, oh yeah, you pick up on like a little bit more, and knowing at the same time, just kind of the aftercare of even like, okay, I know I'm gonna go to say like a concert afterwards. I can like blow my Mapacho on me and kind of like move those energies off a little bit, or come back into my own space. And um
Mm,
yeah, the aftercare is really vital. And usually there'll be a period of like a post dieta, they call it, where you're still kind of easing in foods, like both for your literal digestion. You haven't had, say, like meats or fats or sugars in a certain amount of time. You don't want to just go and like eat a ton of like ice cream and a burger or something straight up, as if you were to do like a cleanse or something as well. um but yeah, kind of like following those, and that'll be different for different plants. Like different plants will have specific aftercare
mhm.
rule too. And you mentioned kind of the concept of like of crossing a diet, and that's also something that's like it's a whole conversation in itself, and that, to my understanding, really depends on like the severity of like what that cross is, and it just kind of is like a conflicted energy. Like it's an energy that doesn't work with it, whether that is like a specific rule, say, like we said like before, like pork, for example, for certain plants or trees is one, or some of those are also specifically for you, whether that was like a toxic behavior that you were engaging in as an individual that doesn't serve anymore.
Mhm.
Whether that relationship that needed to be left behind, or certain ways of thinking, thought patterns, I think is a really big one that we often neglect. Like there's so much material of the mind that the plants can really help us to bring into like greater harmony in a way. And if you're falling back into almost those mental loops, whether that is giving into certain fears, or um, talking down on oneself, or thinking poorly of others, like those are energies that will often conflict with the energies of the plants,
Mhm.
because it's not in alignment to coming into medicine, into truth. Yeah.
Yeah, Dieta is not for the faint of heart. I mean, as it gains popularity, that's why I'm so adamant about having this conversation and really sharing the truth because someone could see all this media about Bob Sana and be like, okay, I'm just gonna go work with Bob Sana without really having the reverence and the understanding um yeah of this spirit and the depths and like what you actually have to surrender and let go of and work towards. It's work. It's work. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
really grateful we're bringing sharing this conversation and integrity and authenticity and an embodiment and getting to also share the sacred wisdom of these indigenous healers that have lineages that go back to working with the certain plants as you shared. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I think, that's such like a wonderful point that you made. And even within that, I know we kind of talked at the beginning of like when you work within a certain family or a certain lineage, it's like prescribing to doing things that way is so beneficial. Like
And staying
walking.
with the lineage that you work with, not going from center to all these different energies. You don't stay with the same lineage. Yeah. Can
Exactly. And like a lot of the times in that container, like they'll have that wisdom of like these plants work really well together. And like,
Mhm.
like these can work as a team for you. And like these, like for this specific thing that you're working on, like these diets done in this order can be really beneficial. And just being able to have that, because it's almost like, you're like programming something in a way. It's like you're programming the system. And I think that's something that I see a lot, to your point of people kind of hearing like, okay, I want to work with this person, and then I want to do this like online
Mhm.
dieta, like, out of context, and you're not receiving that backlog of information of the generational imprints, or of, knowing like, okay, if you work with this plant, like maybe it conflicts with the energy of this plant, or maybe it conflicts with.
And then you don't know if you don't stay with, the obviously if a healer doesn't align with you and you're like, okay, I want to try something else. But yeah, if you're
Absolutely.
going from, they don't know who you were with and what their protocol was, and it can be just not, yeah, not healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And same thing with like hopping between different traditions, lineages, and there are many, ways that paths can look. There are many things that can be harmonious with one another, but I definitely think that recognizing, I think one of the biggest like messages that's coming through right now is like that there's no need to rush, that
Mm,
you can be like take your time with the learning. And
mhm.
from coming from, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, where there's like, it's like the wild west of healing modalities and of like medicine work and whatever. And there's just this general attitude of like, okay, I'm gonna go do a Shipibo-Dieta, and then I'm gonna Kun, and then I'm gonna do this like Reiki training, then I'm gonna do and just like building this web of like,
Yeah.
rather than really taking the time and space to understand something super deeply. And it doesn't mean that other paths are necessarily off limits, but there is like something to be said about building stability in one path and
Mm.
like going deep with it until it feels integrated and complete, because that's how at least with Dieta, like that's how you're going to really gain so much, like sticking with something for a period of time, sticking with a teacher for a period of time or a plant for a period of time, and going deep with that until there is that knowing, like what you said, that communication between you and the plant of like, okay, now you're ready to move on to this next thing. Now you're really ready to like open up the relationship of dieting another plant. Even like certain plants, they say jokingly, are kind of like jealous in a way, or it's like they're like, hey, I need
Yeah.
you for this. You actually need to diet with me longer. Like I want to be with you for
Mhm.
for a full year, for a full 2 years, until it can really take root in the body.
Mm.
um yeah. One more note.
Yeah. No worries. We have time. This is so important. The plants are speaking through us, and I feel that this is
Through
so important.
but yeah, when you were saying that, like the aftercare, one of the things that I've really seen is like sometimes in the container of Dieta, you can experience like the grandness of like the spirit of that plant, and the energy can feel really big. But then once that diet is done, it's like a baby,
Mhm.
like visions of like new diets of like it's like a sapling, it's like a little tree. And it's like a baby plant, and it's even when one when one diets plants, you can dream of children a lot of the time. You can dream of babies a lot of the time. And it's like that is a physical representation of that new diet. And so it's like, how are you going to nurture that until it has maturity? And like as your plants mature, as your diets mature over the years, they begin to take root in the body and they begin to develop more strength and stability. So even to the point of kind of like the sensitivities, oftentimes at the beginning of one's dieta journey, they'll feel more sensitive. And as years go by, the sensitivity attunes in a different way. Like it's still there, but you may notice like you're not as affected by certain foods, you're not as affected by interactions or media, because you don't have this little sapling, you've got a big tree.
Strength.
You've got it. Yeah, you've got the strength, you've got the
Um,
roots. Going to get blown over as easily. And that's what really like tending to your diet can do, feeding your diet, adhering to those commitments in that afterwards can like make sure that it's, you're watering the soil with great nutrients and allowing it to grow to its fullest potential.
oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, dieta is a lifelong path, I feel. Like once you diet and if you feel called, it's like the plants will keep calling and
Mhm. Absolutely.
love you, sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a beautiful conversation. And I'm excited to watch your project grow and
Yeah.
listen to everyone else's conversations too.